Hello everyone. Welcome to the Lightning Ball channel. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so and activate the notification bell. Your support fuels my continued efforts. In the previous episode, we witnessed the earth-shattering battle between Milim and Zelanus, two of the strongest beings in the TenSura world. Meanwhile, Midray also demonstrated his formidable strength by decisively killing the powerful insect General Majika despite being at an absolute disadvantage in existence points. These two battles had one observer, our Primordial Yellow Carrera. Carrera had been ambushed by Zelanus earlier. Although she survived, her arms were shattered and couldn't be restored. So how did the Primordial Demon become the MVP of Milim's side in the battle against the insect army? Well, another one fighting for this MVP title was undoubtedly Peliod. She was the most despair-inducing opponent throughout the war. In this episode, we will talk about the showdown between the two standout performers, Carrera and Peliod. To be precise, it was Peliod against almost all of Milim's strongest forces, excluding Milim herself. Peliod truly lived up to the title of Insect Queen, her strength awe-inspiring, making her one of the well-developed antagonists in the TenSura series despite her limited screen time. So, let's get started. Saved by Milim, Carrera understood the vast difference in power between herself and Zelanus, realizing that she needed to focus on healing her arms first. Meanwhile, her attention turned to the battle between Peliod and Abara's group. Abara, leading Geld, Dabta, Ranga, Carrion, and Frey, was struggling against Peliod, and the fight was far more brutal than Carrera had imagined. As the mother of the Insectars, Insect Queen Peliod continued to grow stronger with the increasing casualties on the battlefield. Facing such a formidable enemy, Abara calmly directed her team. Their strategy was this: Abara acted as the commander, primary attacker, and main defensive tank. When Abara was exhausted, Geld would immediately step in to take the brunt of the damage. Meanwhile, Carrion, Frey, Gabta, and Ranga served as guerrilla forces, constantly attacking and harassing Peliod. This tactic was very similar to how Venom and others faced Arios in the Battle of Ingracia, but that battle had the unparalleled support of Masayuki, a top-tier aide in the TenSura world. Carrera thought that Abara and the others' strategy was extremely risky. The reality was that Carrion and Frey were already very fatigued from their previous battles, and even a single hit could be fatal. Thus, the roles of Abara and Geld as tanks were crucial. Moreover, without a healer or support role, all damage had to be regenerated using their own accelerated healing abilities. Without a high recovery character like Geld, a protracted battle would be totally impossible. Fortunately, Midray quickly defeated his opponent, Majika, and joined the fight, slightly easing the pressure on everyone. Watching Midray effortlessly kill Majika, Carrera couldn't help but express her admiration. She had not expected Midray to possess such strength. Simply observing Midray's advanced offensive and defensive techniques in his true form provided Carrera with valuable insights. However, the battle with Peliod was still far from optimistic. Carrera desperately wanted to rush to support her teammates, but Zelanus's attack had been so devastating that her arms were still immobile. Feeling anxious about her helplessness, Carrera continued to monitor the situation. After Midray joined the fray, the battle's situation did not improve. In fact, it worsened. With Majika's death, his power returned to his mother, Peliod, making her even stronger. Peliod absorbed Majika's warrior experience, her body now adorned with warrior-like armor and wielding a terrifying ominous blade. Even her previously weak close combat skills were enhanced after Majika's death. Peliod's only weakness had vanished. As long as one died within the barrier on the battlefield, Peliod could absorb the power regardless of whether it belonged to friend or foe. To solve this problem, the barrier on the battlefield would need to be destroyed, but that was impossible given that the barrier was maintained by two of the world's top beings, Milim and Zelanus. Both of them, for their own reasons, silently maintained the barrier to protect the planet. However, this also meant there was no way to limit Peliod. The only consolation was that it seemed Peliod's power could no longer be enhanced, providing an opportunity to find a breakthrough. With the Insectar army now entirely wiped out except for Zelanus and Peliod, there was no more energy to flow into Peliod's body. Milim's army, equipped with full recovery potions and the Yellow Demon's strategy of collecting the souls of the dead, ensured that their fallen soldiers did not contribute to Peliod's strength. Peliod had hoped to gain power from Milim's injured soldiers, but the lack of expected results clearly frustrated her. However, after absorbing the powers of the Insectar generals and reuniting them, Peliod's strength had increased significantly since the start of the battle, entering another dimension of power. On the other hand, Midray and Abra were aware of Peliod's abilities and avoided attacks that could cause their side casualties. Instead, they patiently engaged in a war of attrition, carefully coordinating to inflict continuous damage on Peliod. Peliod, while not suffering fatal injuries, found it surprisingly difficult to defeat the numerous powerful opponents she faced alone. Despite her immense strength, she was frustrated by her inability to quickly eliminate these bothersome adversaries. Although Peliod was confident she could eventually achieve victory with time, her opponent's resilience was unsettling. Particularly troublesome was Geld. In Peliod's view, Geld was merely a stubborn pig-headed opponent who, regardless of how many fatal blows he took, kept standing up again. Despite knowing the absolute disparity between them, Geld continued to glare at Peliod, as if he believed he would win. Peliod's frustration grew. This was beyond a joke. The defiant look in Geld's eyes should have been the look she gave to the weaklings, not the other way around. She was astonished by Geld's tenacity. If Abra had shown this level of resilience, it would have been understandable, but how could Geld achieve this? His extraordinary endurance shocked Peliod, and she couldn't help but wonder how long he could withstand such a level of assault. Peliod suppressed her inner frustration and forced herself to calm down. Then, as if to vent her anger, she unleashed Tizhan's skill, Disrupting Slash. Geld immediately enveloped himself with Chaos Eater, absorbing most of the damage and dodging the rest. Seeing her attack nullified, Peliod's rage intensified, not because her strength was lacking, but because her multiple opponents were working together with all their might. Gabta and Ranga coordinated their efforts to disrupt Peliod, while Midray, Carrion, and Frey attacked relentlessly, seemingly unafraid of death. Abra gave precise instructions and helped absorb Peliod's attacks, sharing the burden with Geld. It wasn't just them, Geld's subordinates were also involved. Geld's ultimate gift, Lord of Gourmet, had the skill substitution, which allowed him to share damage with others, and grant protection, which increased his allies' defenses. Geld skillfully managed these powers, distributing some of his damage to his subordinates. Thanks to the numerous orc soldiers sharing the damage, the battle continued. With Abra and Geld at the center of their strategy, Milim's side awaited the moment when Peliod would tire. Watching from the sidelines, Carrera couldn't help but praise their efforts, but she remained anxious. Abra and Geld's cooperation was indeed clever, but this high-risk strategy, where a single mistake could be fatal, couldn't last long. Even if they managed to hold out, they lacked a decisive blow. Carrera concluded that, no matter what, they couldn't defeat Peliod this way. Carrera felt a surge of urgency. She had to act before there were any casualties. She glared angrily at her motionless hands, feeling utterly useless if she couldn't move them. Returning to the battle, as Geld took more damage, his condition worsened. His consciousness was fading, and his armor was shattered. The damage he sustained was surpassing his accelerated regeneration. Geld was now standing purely on sheer willpower, never taking his eyes off Peliod. Rimuru-sama had once said that in a fight, the one who looked away first would lose. Although Rimuru had said it casually while drinking, Geld took it as a truth. Even if it wasn't a truth, Geld believed that through his efforts, he could make it one. This was Geld's faith in his god. However, despite Geld's unwavering determination, he could no longer withstand the situation. After another disrupting slash attack, he finally collapsed to his knees. Peliod was delighted, praising his strong spirit, while also declaring that she would save Geld for last. This wasn't out of admiration but rather to slowly torment him later. Peliod wanted to see just how much punishment Geld could endure. With Geld no longer able to hold on, Peliod saw this as the perfect time to eliminate his helpers. Amid Peliod's laughter, Carrera was frantically thinking. Carrera had always pursued strength to become the most reliable presence at critical moments, but now, she found herself unable to contribute. She even began to question the purpose of her existence. At this rate, everyone would undoubtedly be killed by Peliod. At that moment, sensing Carrera's distress, the golden gun emitted a faint glow. An unexpected voice spoke, offering to lend Carrera a hand. It was the voice of Tatsuya Kondou, someone who shouldn't exist in this world. Carrera was astonished but quickly regained her composure. Hearing this familiar voice, she realized that now was not the time to stand idly. Though Carrera wondered if she was hallucinating, she knew better than to doubt reality in such a dire situation. Carrera jokingly remarked that Tatsuya Kondou wasn't completely dead yet. Tatsuya Kondou, with a proud smile, replied that it was because Carrera was so unreliable that he had been summoned back from the afterlife. What Carrera didn't know was that at the same time, on another battlefield where Emperor Masayuki was confronting Feldway, Masayuki had activated the banner of the Supreme King from his Lord of Heroes power. The Kondou before Carrera had a physical form but wasn't alive. He was an Einherjar, an entity similar in nature to digital nature. Such an event would normally be impossible, but through Masayuki's power and the Golden Gun's call, Tatsuya Kondou was able to come to Carrera's aid. Thus, Tatsuya Kondou wasn't summoned solely by Masayuki's power but rather appeared because of the coincidental alignment of two events, forcing his soul to manifest through the Golden Gun. Tatsuya Kondou sarcastically teased Carrera, asking if the demon who once killed him was about to meet her own end here. Unyielding, Carrera replied that she was just about to beat up Peliod when Kondou suddenly appeared and blocked her way. Kondou didn't ask Carrera how she planned to defeat Peliod. Instead, he simply said that's good and offered his help, but he needed Carrera's permission. Grateful for the much-needed assistance, Carrera put aside her pride and readily accepted, stating that given her current condition, she would gladly borrow Kondou's strength. Thus, Carrera gained a powerful ally, and the two quickly began to strategize. Carrera didn't hesitate to make her demands clear, asking Kondou for ways to defeat Peliod. However, Kondou sighed and admitted that he couldn't defeat Peliod either. Despite his recent arrival in this world, Kondou quickly grasped the situation and made a reasonable assessment. We know Tatsuya Kondou's traits well. Not only is he strong, but he is also someone who uses any means necessary to achieve victory. As an opponent, he could be considered cunning and deceitful. As an ally, he is flexible and reliable. Kondou astutely noticed that Insect Queen Peliod was fully focused on Abra, Geld, and the others. Since a frontal assault couldn't break through the opponent, the best approach was a surprise attack with a fatal blow. With that, Kondou placed his hand on Carrera's, intending to transfer power to the golden gun she held. Surprised by the sudden contact, Carrera hastily remarked that she felt very shy when a man held her hand unexpectedly. Kondou coldly cut her off with a curt "shut up." Carrera's comment was entirely sincere, and Kondou's indifferent response irritated her. Yet, he was right. To prevent further harm to their comrades, they needed to seize the opportunity to strike the enemy. Carrera focused intently on the golden gun and soon understood Kondou's plan. Yes, it was the same attack that had made even Zelanus uneasy, Carrera's strongest move, Judgment Bullet. Kondou concentrated all his power into the golden gun, granting Carrera an additional use of the Judgment Bullet. Kondou didn't question whether Carrera could now freely use the Judgment Bullet. He believed in her. Feeling this trust, Carrera's earlier anger dissipated, and she accepted the responsibility with a bright smile. Shifting the focus to Peliod, she felt certain of her victory, with her only concern being Milim. Although Peliod never doubted her master's victory, she wanted to assist Zelanus as soon as possible. Raising her hand once more, Peliod prepared for another round of attacks. Those facing Peliod wore expressions of despair. Apart from Abra, no one seemed capable of withstanding Peliod's another ultimate move. Geld struggled to move forward again. Abra maintained a serious expression, and Carrion and Frey were prepared to die. As the light in Peliod's hand gathered, signaling the impending death of her opponents, she suddenly felt a chill, sensing someone interfering with her controlled space. To Peliod, It seemed nearly impossible for anyone to forcibly interfere with and enter this barrier. Even the world's top-tier fighters would find it extremely difficult to penetrate this space. If someone like Milim managed to break in, there would usually be some time for Peliod to react after sensing the intrusion. However, Peliod felt someone had appeared within the barrier without any warning, which was entirely impossible. If it truly happened, it couldn't be a living being. Realizing the danger, Peliod hurriedly shifted her gaze to locate the intruder. She saw a gun gleaming with golden light aimed at her, held by none other than Primordial Yellow Carrera. Peliod had previously determined that Carrera shouldn't be able to engage in combat. Then, she noticed a man standing close to Carrera, his sharp eyes fixed on her head, clearly indicating his intent. A deep, primal fear welled up from within Peliod's soul. Shocked and about to cry out, her head was obliterated by the bullet. Peliod's life ended without even having a chance to say her last words. After confirming Peliod's elimination, Carrera laughed joyfully and turned to tell Tatsuya Kondou that they had won. However, Tatsuya Kondou was no longer there. As mentioned before, Tatsuya Kondou wasn't fully summoned by Masayuki's power but had forcibly manifested through the golden gun. It could even be said that everything just now was a figment of Carrera's strong will. Feeling a wave of disappointment, Carrera sighed into the empty sky, understanding that Tatsuya Kondou had come because he was worried about her weakness. Although she felt lonely, Carrera was resilient and could endure. Determined not to show the same weakness again, she resolved to become even stronger. Alright, that's all for this video. In the last episode, I didn't explain the barrier situation on the battlefield involving Zelanus and Milim very clearly. Essentially, Zelanus created a second barrier within Milim's barrier, effectively isolating Milim out of it. Thus, for Milim to enter the battlefield, she had to interfere with Zelanus's barrier. Zelanus estimated it would take 10 seconds to interfere, but Milim's computational abilities exceeded his expectations, allowing her to enter the battlefield faster. In this episode, Tatsuya Kondou, on the other hand, traversed both barriers, or rather, he appeared directly within the barrier thanks to Masayuki's extraordinary skill and the golden gun's summons. The intriguing interaction between Carrera and Tatsuya Kondou might have been unexpected for many readers encountering this part for the first time. Carrera was undoubtedly the MVP of this battle, taking down the two strongest insect generals, Peliod and Zes, thanks to the extraordinary judgment bullet. Geld's personality traits also shone through in this battle. He's not good at expressing himself or using cunning strategies. He simply does what needs to be done with unwavering dedication. Such a character, if found in real life, would be the most reliable friend. So, what will be the outcome of this great battle? What actions will Zelanus take upon learning of Insect Queen Peliod's death? In our next episode, we will see the sudden appearance of Velzard, displaying her overwhelming strength. We will also witness Milim's subordinates preparing to face death so that Milim-sama can fight without any restraints. Milim will experience the second berserk moment of her life. Meanwhile, Felway will start his next plan. The next episode promises to be just as exciting. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you in the next one.